to go ahead and get started. My name is Ellen Connor. I am the product training specialist here at Newline. And I want to thank you for joining us for Newline's webinar series on our Classroom Kit. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the RS series and some of the features that it has that might help you in the classroom. A couple of kind of things to note before we get started is that I am recording this session that we're having here today. So it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you want to refer back to some of the things that I've shared, go ahead and check out Newline Interactive on YouTube. I also want to point out that within Zoom, there is a Q&A feature. If you have any questions as we go along, go ahead and enter those into the session there, and I will be going over those questions and answering them towards the end. So to go ahead and get started, again, we are looking at the RS series. This is the panel that we typically see in the education space. Now to get started, we are looking at the home screen right now. You can see I do have a colorful home screen here. It's just a theme that you can set with the settings if you want to spice it up a little bit. Now on the left side, you'll see that we have those 6 squares, whereas on the right side, we have a diagram. And this diagram is actually going to be a diagram of the panel, but it's also going to be your source menu, your live preview. So you'll see that there are 3 HDMI ports, a display port, and a VGA port. So it really can help for any devices that you have now, but any that you would have in the future to be able to support them. Now you'll notice that one of my buttons out here on the outside on my sources is lit up in white. What the panel has is, like I mentioned, live preview. So if you have multiple devices plugged into your panel, it can be very hard to find which one is plugged where. It's hard to remember, what's going on in the back there. So if you plug in a device to the panel, it will light up in white. So you'll see I have a built-in PC right now, and if I touch on that white button, it's going to share a live preview of my computer, what I have plugged in there. So again, this is nice if you have maybe your own laptop, a document camera, a student computer plugged in, you want to be able to easily find it. So once you tap on that, you can tap on the live preview and it will launch to your computer and you can start interacting with it from there. Now, I will admit sometimes that takes a little bit of time when you're trying to quickly switch between, maybe your whiteboard on the panel and your source. So something else you can do is on the left side, you'll see that I have a Windows button. That Windows button is for an onboard computer. Some of you may have that, some of you may not. Now, if you're one of those people that don't have one, that's okay. We can change that button now to allow for you to set your own source. So what I can do is I can hold down on any one of these 6 tiles. I'm going to pick the blue Windows button. And you'll see once I hold down on it that I get a customization menu that appears on the right side. And this is where I can change my source. So for example, if my laptop is plugged into HDMI 1, I can tap on HDMI 1 and it now changes over on the blue button. Now from there, if you tap on the text labeled HDMI 1, you can rename it. So a little keyboard will pop up, and I'm going to go ahead and rename it here. Select OK, tap the little house at the bottom, and now I've customized my home screen here to fit exactly what I need in the classroom. So this button can make it a little bit easier for you to connect and find your source rather than using the diagram on the side. Now, that's how you can find your devices when they are plugged in. Now, something that we also have built into the panel is wireless screen sharing. So for instance, right now, what you can do, instead of having a student, have a presentation, bring their computer up to the panel and have them plug it in, takes, I don't know, five minutes per student. That's a lot for 20-some students. So what you can do is have them wirelessly cast right from their desk. So as an example, I'm going to go ahead and tap on the purple button that says screen sharing. And this is going to bring up Newline Cast. Here in front of me, I have a Chromebook. Now, when you're wirelessly casting, you can use really any device. You can use Windows devices, you can use Apple products, your MacBooks, your iPhones, your iPads, as well as your Android phones. Any of those can be used here. Now, from my Chromebook, what I have done is I have visited this URL. Now, from here, what I'm going to do is enter the session ID that's listed in step 2. This session ID will change each session that you have. So you do need to be conscious of that. I'm also going to enter my name here. Once I select connect, you're going to see that my name will pop up in the right-hand corner where it says awaiting connections. And my Chromebook's giving me a little bit of an issue here, so I'm going to go ahead and switch it up and go from my Windows device. So from a Windows device, what I'm going to do is I am actually going to open up the Display Note app. Now, the Display Note app, that is one that I prefer. However, you can use the URL if you want to. The reason I prefer the app is it's just easier for me to use across devices. I can use this on my iPad, like I said, but also on my phone, so either one. One second here while I get my computer set up. There we go. So again, I'm going to the Display Note app, and I'm again going to try and enter that session ID that's listed. Now, I do want to point out, if some of you have tried to use your Display Note, your Newline Cast, and you're not getting a session ID, please feel free to email me. There might be some network settings that need to be set up, and I can send out some information on that your technology people can set up for you. So there we go. You can see my name is listed on the right side. Can tap on my name. I'm going to invite my computer to present. My Windows laptop has a message that says someone invited me to share my screen. That's really nice for sometimes students, if they are off task and they don't want to share what they're doing up on the screen, they do have that option to hold off for a second until they can share it. Once I share my screen, you'll see that it can be casted up here onto the panel. Again, no wires, and I really could sit in the back of the room if I wanted to. Now with this, I want to point out that from Windows devices, you have the ability to have bidirectional touch. So what that means is, if I was a student and I left my computer in the back of the classroom, my Windows device in the back there, I could come up to the front here and be able to open up content. If I had PowerPoint slides, Google slides, things like that, I would be able to use them up here without having to have my computer near me. Things like your MacBooks, your iPads, your Chromebooks, those still need to be managed from the device level. So again, it's just something that Windows allows for that. Now, from here, you'll see that I can interact with this, but I don't have the ability to write on top of my content. So what's built into the panel are some annotation tools. And we have an overlay, which is located on the left and the right side of the screen. It's on the side toolbar, it's a very top one. And what happens if I tap on that, you'll see that it will bring up an overlay. It's kind of like a transparency, where I now have the ability to write on this here. Now the panel has something called object recognition. So that means based on the tool that I use on the panel, it will react. Now, some of you may have used your stylus that comes with the panel. However, I am a former teacher. I understand that things get lost all the time. So go ahead and pick up something that is, soft or wood, just like a mechanical pencil. This is the tool I use. You could use a chopstick, golf tee. I occasionally use a tennis ball. All of those can be used up on the panel here. You don't have to have your special stylus. So now when I want to write, I'm just going to walk up with my mechanical pencil, and you can see that I can immediately start writing on top of my content here. Erasing, just going to use the back of my hand. So ball it up like a fist and drag it over from here. Now, I also, instead of using the back of my hand, I can use the claw, which is all 5 fingers at one time, to erase as well. My preference is to use the claw, the all 5 fingers, because if I have my sleeve or a watch or something, it might occasionally catch on the panel and not be able to erase. I know consistently that the claw will work there. As well as being able to write and tell the difference between your eraser, you also have the ability to write with 2 different colors at the same time. This can be really useful if you have multiple students up and working on the panel, or perhaps you're a math teacher, you want to write your problem in one color and solve it in another. So how you can do this is, again, you just take your thin stylus and something a little bit thicker. For this example, I'm just going to use my finger. And I'm going to take my stylus and tap on my pen here. And I'm going to go over to the right side where you'll see my color palette. Now, this is a new feature with our update. Now, if you're looking at your panel and you don't see this, go ahead and shoot me an email and I'll get you that newest update. But I'm going to go ahead and select pink. So you can see my stylus is pink. But then with my finger, I'm going to tap on my pen again, and this time I will go with purple. Now, since I've assigned 2 different colors to do 2 different tools, I'm going to go ahead and write with both of these at the same time. So again, like I mentioned earlier, this is a nice way to get multiple students up here interacting, but then also to tell for a teacher and maybe student handwriting apart. The panel does have 20 points of touch, so you can get multiple students up here and interacting, but it's just going to tell the 2 different colors at the same time there. Now, when it comes to saving and exiting out of the screen annotation mode, some of you will find that when you exit using the screen with the pen on the side, that it automatically takes a picture of your content. Now, I would say 99% of the teachers, they don't want to save everything that they have worked on. They're going to pick and choose what they need. So if you have it set where it takes a screenshot of everything you have done, you can turn it off. And so on the left side of your panel, you will see a little camera. And if you hold down on that camera, a pop-up will come up that asks you if you want to save everything that you've written, all of your screenshots. My suggestion to you is to select no. So here when I select no, and then I go over to the side and exit using my screen with the pen, you'll see that it doesn't take a picture. Now, if I do decide that I want to take a picture, I just tap once on that camera at the bottom, and it's going to take that picture for me. Now, that picture gets saved directly to the panel. It does not get plugged into the computer that I have plugged into the panel. It gets saved right to the panel. So even if you are writing over your Google Slides that's displayed on your computer, again, it's going to be saved to the panel. How I'm going to retrieve it is I'm going to go back to the home screen like I've done. I'm going to get to the home screen using the house that's on my side toolbar and selecting the file viewer. The file viewer is a spot where you can open up pictures as well as files right from the panel if you don't have a computer available to you. Now you'll see in the middle that I have a pictures button. And if I touch on that, at the top I have an internal storage button. And on the left side, I have my screenshot that I have taken. Now, it's saved up here on the panel. That makes it hard when you want to share with students the work they've done, maybe with parents, or you just want to make a digital record of some of the work. It's hard to do that when it's up on the panel. So what you can do is you can actually share this content to your cloud storage. So as long as you have your panel connected to the internet, if I tap on the 3 dots that are next to my file name on my image, you'll see towards the bottom there is a share button. When I select share, it's going to ask me if I want to save with the file commander or Aquamail. I suggest that you save with the file commander. And here you can see that I've already logged into my Google Drive, but it gives me the ability to add a cloud account. So if you use Google Drive, you can log in there, maybe Dropbox or OneDrive. Those are some of the more common ones. I have already logged into Google Drive, so I'm going to tap on Google Drive as well as my specific drive. And then I'm going to add that screenshot to my folders that I have. You'll see that I have broken my Google Drive down to some folders that I can help with the panel. So I have a screenshots folder, and if I tap on that, and then down at the bottom, select OK, I now can share that image to my Google Drive. So if I'm at home and I have my laptop, I have the ability to pull that up, add it to my Google Classroom, email it out to students, things like that. So again, that is how you can wirelessly cast. You can use a screen annotation tool. Now, I do want to point out that I use the screen annotation tool to write over content that I was wirelessly casting. However, you can write over anything that you have displayed on the panel. So you can show your wirelessly casted content. You can show that your computer's plugged in. You could plug in a document camera and be able to write over that content. It does not matter as long as it's displayed up on the panel. You can write over it. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the home screen here. I'm going to get there again, just using the house on the side. Next to the screen sharing button, we have the whiteboard. And this whiteboard is built into the panel. So if you have no computer for that day and you still need to be able to instruct, you can use this whiteboard. No computer involved. This also has object recognition. So if I grab my thin stylus and start writing, from here you can see that I don't have to pick a tool. Again, my eraser is my hand. Now, when I've got my writing on here, perhaps it's in the wrong space. I want to move it to the top left. So in the middle, there is a little lasso. If I tap on that lasso and I draw a circle around my writing here, it will pick it up like an image. And I can drag that image to the top left, to the bottom, right to the middle, anywhere that I need to, I can move it. Now, some other things that I can do with this is in the bottom right, there's an arrow, and I can turn this around so I can manipulate it. But then if this is white and I might want a copy of this, that's, let's say, in yellow, the top right, we've got the 3 lines, the hamburger. I can tap on that. There's the 2 papers on top of each other. If I copy it and just hold my stylus down, a little clipboard will pop up and I can paste it. Now, if I want to change that color, I'm going to go back to the hamburger, tap on the color wheel, and you can see that I can switch to yellow, green, red, black, any of these colors that I need. So again, that is the whiteboard and some of the features as far as being able to manipulate. Now, next to the lasso, we have your eraser. You can use that or your hand, whichever one you find to be easiest. To the right of that is a little broom. That broom is going to be your clear all. It does have a little message that says, are you sure you want to do that? Just in case maybe some little fingers have tapped on that and you want to keep it. And then to the right of that, we have our back arrow, so any mistakes that you might make. Now on the left side, you'll see that I have a couple of tools as well. So to start, I have the Insert Image button, so I can add a picture here. I can pull in pictures from my Google Drive, my OneDrive, anything that I have before my lesson starts. So if I tap on this folder, I'm going to select on the File Commander. And I've already, again, logged into my drive here. And I'm going to go ahead and pick this little guy. And you can see I can add that picture that I found beforehand. Now, I know all teachers are prepared at all times, but if occasionally something happens, what you can also do with that picture button is you can do a Google image search. So you can search for any images, or on the right side, you'll see the Earth with the www dot. This gives you the ability to search right from the panel and add your images. So I'm going to add a map of Texas because that's where I'm located here. I'm going to find my image that I want and have that come up. So again, this gives you the ability to add images right into your whiteboard here. So now at the top right, you'll see I have looks like a camera. Once I touch on that, I can then adjust the screenshot that I want to take or the picture I want. If I tap on the check mark, you'll see that it will insert it right here to my whiteboard. And I can make adjustments on this as well as the size goes here. Now next to the insert image button, you'll see a T. And that T is going to be for text. So if you see now in the center, there's a tap the screen to add text. You can pick your color. So I'll go with red, as well as the size of your text. So when I tap in the middle, it's going to bring up a keyboard. Now, if you find that that text is too small for you, you can use that lasso to circle it and make it larger from there. Lastly, on the left side, what you have is an arrow. That actually is going to show you some shapes that are already built in. So instead of wasting time drawing the perfect shape, you can tap on it and add it from there. There's also, if you want to use the arrow or the straight line drawing tool to make things easier. So again, that's how you can add pictures, text, and shapes. Now, when it comes to this background, it's going to start off being a grayish blue color. Now, not everybody likes that color, and that's okay. You can change it. So you'll see on the right side, I have this plus sign. And if I hold down on that plus sign, I'm going to get some different options as far as the background goes. So I can change the background to be kind of like a light green with some grid paper, or I can add some lined paper. I can even split the screen into quadrants if I want to. So I'll make it a little bit darker. So I can split it into quadrants. But for some of our coaches out there or our math teachers, when you're working on angles, they've got some fields. But you also have the ability to insert your own background. So like I mentioned, I was a teacher before. I taught kindergarten. However, there's no handwriting paper, which is important for those young grades. There's lined paper, but that doesn't really help me. So what you can do is there's an insert backgrounds button. So what I did is I went online and I found an image of handwriting paper that I liked. And I saved that image to my Google Drive. Now, since I'm logged into my Google Drive from the panel, I can again tap on my file commander, and we're going to go through my drive. I've got my whiteboard backgrounds folder. Tap on my handwriting paper, select OK, and you can see that I can add my own paper here. Again, as long as it is an image, you can add that as a background here. I do want to point out that that is a little bit different than adding the image. The image will add just a picture, where the background will take over the screen there. Now, to move through your slides, you'll see on the right side I have these arrows. You can just tap on those to move through. Now, to the left of the plus sign, you'll notice a little settings wheel. Now, some of you may experience where you'll be writing on the panel and it will start off being the color you pick, like white, and then all of a sudden it will switch to another color, like red. Now, that has to do with object recognition and how I'm holding my stylus on the panel. My suggestion to you is to hold the stylus back a little bit on your hand, because the panel has a sensor around it, and if you sometimes touch that sensor with a larger object, it will switch the tool. So my first suggestion is always to hold the stylus back. However, if you're doing that and it's still happening to you, you can turn object recognition off. And you do that with that little settings wheel. So if I tap on that at the bottom, you can see I can toggle over to the hand. This will no longer switch on me in the middle of my writing. However, I do want to point out that it will no longer recognize two different size tools, like I have set here. However, if you want to turn it back on, you just tap to that settings wheel and toggle over to the pen. Now, when you set that to no longer do object recognition, it will stay like that until you've decided to move it over again. Now, all of the pages that you've used here on the whiteboard, they do get saved automatically. So at the end of the day, if you turn off your panel and then all of a sudden in the middle of the night, you remember that you erase everything, or you think you erase everything, don't worry. When you go back to the home screen of the panel and back to that file viewer, you're going to find all of those pictures, or your whiteboard pages, I should say, under your pictures. So you can see those at the top there for me. Again, if I want to move those onto my cloud storage, I tap on the three dots, select Share, Save with the File Commander. I'll just grab my Google Drive and then add it to my whiteboard and select OK. So again, everything's going to move it over to my cloud storage. I'm going to go ahead and head back to the home screen here. Now to the bottom left in the light blue, you will see the browser. Now, I will tell you that that browser, to me, it's more like a mobile browser. So it's not going to be the browser that I use for my day-to-day instruction when I'm using things like my Google Slides or my interactive websites. I'm going to rely on my computer for that because that's a little bit more robust. However, some things happen where perhaps you forget your charging cord, so you don't have your computer, or perhaps you have a substitute teacher. So you don't have your charging cord, you need a browser, go ahead and check that one out. It will be able to accomplish what you need. But also when you have a sub, we shouldn't be sharing our passwords with our subs to our computers. So if they need access to the internet, this is another great option for them to be able to use. They can watch their YouTube videos from there. Now, next to the browser, we do have that file viewer. Now, I've talked about that file viewer when it comes to opening up your pictures. However, you can use the file viewer to open up things like your Google Slides or your PowerPoints. However, again, it's not going to be my first option just because it formats things a little bit different than I was using my computer. So I always say use your computer first and use this as your backup plan. The file viewer I do really like when it comes to a substitute teacher again. A suggestion that I have is when you have a sub, if you have some documents, some slides, you want them to be able to share on the panel. If you have a thumb drive, you can add all of that content to it. Now, once you've added that, leave a little sticky note for the sub. They can plug in that thumb drive to the little door next to the power button. And when they plug that in, they can go to that file viewer, and right down here where it says internal storage, there will be a button that says USB storage. They tap on that and it will give them the ability to open up all of that content you have shared with them. Now, again, the formatting is different, but the content is going to be there, and that's what's most important. So again, that is the file viewer. Now, to the right of the file viewer, we have the gadgets button. Now, the gadgets button is going to take you to some of the embedded apps that are on the panel. You'll see there are things like the gallery and music, where you can upload music if you want to, or you can always stream it on your computer, whatever your choice is. But you have a couple other tools as well. So for instance, there's something called Newline Broadcast. Now, Newline Broadcast, what it does is it takes the content that's displayed on the panel and pushes it out to students' individual devices. So for instance, if you have a student that has an iPad and they are sitting in the back of the room and they're really having trouble seeing what you're doing up here on the panel, instead of them moving up closer to you, what they can do is just open up a browser enter that session ID, or I'm sorry, the URL that's listed here. From there, enter that broadcast ID. Once they've connected, everything that you have displayed up on the panel will be displayed on their devices. Even if you are displaying a Google slide on your own computer up here on the panel, they will be able to see it. It is just going to be a visual. It will not have any audio, as well as students will not be able to interact with it and try and mess with your lesson there. So again, that is Newline Broadcast. Looks like someone connected. But Newline Broadcast, it is going to just use a URL. So it's going to be like Newline Cast, where you all don't have to be on the same network. You can be in different places and be able to access it. Another tool that I want to mention, this isn't going to be for the classroom teacher, but more for the IT directors, the people that are managing all of the technology. We have something called Newline Display Management. So it allows for you to manage all of the panels just from a web portal. So instead of you getting a ticket, a support ticket, and having to leave your office to drive to a building or go to different classrooms, you have the ability just from your web portal to change some of the settings, switch sources. You can also send out notifications. So if there could be emergency ones like, early dismissal for snow, or it could just simply be an assembly at 3 p.m. So that's something that you can use with the panels. Just let me know and we can get you set up with that as well. So that is the home screen of the panel and most of the buttons here. There are a couple other things that I want to point out that most people may not realize from the beginning when they get their panel. The first is going to be the time there at the top. Now, if I tap on the time, you're going to see that I have a world clock. So if I tap on the Earth down there at the bottom, I can compare the time in Texas here to anywhere in the world. You can see. But I also have a couple more buttons at the top, the left side. For instance, I do have an alarm. So for me, when I was teaching, I always had to have attendance in at 9 a.m. However, I'm teaching, so I often forgot. So if you're like me and need a reminder throughout the day, maybe of when lunch is, when your specials are, things like that, you can set this alarm here. It will make a sound and you can snooze it just like your morning alarms. You also have a timer, so you can set a timer on here. You also can save them. So if you frequently use a 5-minute timer, you can go ahead and save that. And lastly, we have the stopwatch that you can use as well. Now, these tools, when you're using them, they run in the background. So you don't have to have them displayed for them to be in use. So for instance, if you have a 5-minute timer and then you are displaying your Google Slides on your computer, your alarm will pop up over all of that and allow for you to dismiss it there. So it's still available at all times. Now, a couple of times here I've used those left and the right toolbars. Now I want to go through those because some of you may not be utilizing them as much as you should be. So the very top, as I mentioned earlier, it's my screen annotation tool. If I touch on that, I could write over anything that's displayed on my panel. And below that, I have a shortcut to my whiteboard. When you look at your panel, you'll notice that the icon for the whiteboard is identical to the one on the side. Therefore, this is always nice if I'm on my computer and I quickly need to get to my whiteboard, I'm going to tap on that rather than having to go to the home screen and select it there. Underneath that, we have the house. Always brings you back to the home screen. Underneath that, we have an arrow. And if you tap on that twice, it will bring you back out of whatever you're in. Now, the bottom button, that is going to be a shortcut for you, for your source. Now, if you haven't changed it, what it is it says PC, just like it does for me. That PC button is a shortcut to the onboard computer. Now, like I said earlier, not all of you have that onboard computer, so why have a button that leads to nowhere? It's no use for you. So you can change that to be your shortcut for your own computer. How you do that is you're going to go up to the top to the settings in the top right. Once I touch on that, you'll see I get all my settings here. The tool I'm going to start with is the toolbar on the left side. Once I touch on that, you're going to see that I have a label of customize icon. I have Windows, Task, and Connection. If you are plugging in your own computer to the panel, I do suggest that you select Connection, and then you pick your favorite connection. Your favorite connection is going to be whichever one you use for your main computer. So if I tap on that down arrow, you can see I can pick any of the HDMI ports, VGA, as well as DisplayPort. Now, as an example, I'm going to have it on HDMI 1. And once I select that, you'll see on the bottom of my toolbar that it has now changed to a square with an arrow. So now my shortcut is my HDMI 1. So for instance, if I am on the whiteboard here, and I'm in the middle of a lesson, and a student asked me a question about the YouTube video we were watching on my computer. Instead of me having to go to the home button and then select on my new source, I'm just going to tap the bottom button there, and it's going to switch to HDMI 1. If I need to get back to my whiteboard, I'm just going to select the whiteboard on the side toolbar. So you can see you can switch easily back and forth there, rather than always having to go return to the home screen. A couple other buttons that I want to mention, or settings that I want to mention to you here, is your whiteboard / screenshots. You'll see that you can have a regular clearance of data. So if you find that you really get a lot of backup, a lot of images in there, and you want it to clear itself automatically, you can set that up here. So you can have it range from every time to never. So whatever you need that fits for you there. We also have the date and time setting. So as long as you have your panel connected to the internet, it will pick up your network provided time. If you don't have it connected, you can uncheck the automatic date and time, and you can set it automatically. There is also the power on and off setting. Now, I want to point out that when you get your panel brand new, that some of you might experience where you leave your panel alone for about 30 minutes and then it automatically turns off on you. That's just a setting that we have here at Newline when you first get your products. To change that, which I do suggest you doing, is you select the energy saving button, tap on that, and then you can adjust the increment of time. So you can see 30, 60, 90 minutes, and then never. Now, if you do select never, and you occasionally forget to power on and off your panel at the end of the day, you can set that to auto power off if you need to. Lastly, we have the input / output setting. Now, you can set it up where when you turn on your panel, if you find that you really aren't using the home screen, you use your computer most of the time, you just want it to display every time you turn it on, you can change your starting source. So tap on starting source, the down arrow. You can select Windows or your favorite source. Again, you can set your favorite source under toolbar. So once you do that, every time you turn on this panel, it will go right to your computer. You also at the top can have it set up where every time that you plug in a new device to the panel, it will automatically switch to that source, rather than always having to use the diagram on the front to find your source. Might be a little bit easier for you there. A couple other things here, you can change the background. So if you want to change the white wallpaper here to maybe a picture of your students or your school, you can add that there. And then lastly, at the bottom, there is a theme button. So you can see I've got the colorful theme, but you can change it to have kind of more of a bluish background there. So that is the RS series and some of the Classroom Toolkit tricks that you can use. I am going to go over to the Q&A feature here now. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in there and I will address them for you. If you don't have any questions, thank you for joining us. And please let me know if you have any questions or need anything. There was a question about the, I believe, Newline cast and the session changing each time. Yes, the session ID will change each time that you start a new session. The idea behind that is sometimes students will be in one class and go to another and maybe hold on to that session ID and try and join the session. This just makes it easier for teachers to just start brand new there. So there was a question, where do you get the Newline software for the wireless casting? So it should be built into your panel. So when you select screen sharing here, you will see this, this screen. Now, if you don't see that and you have the RS series, reach out to me. We might need to get you a firmware update. Now, if you're referring to getting the Display Note app, what you can do is just go to your Google Play Store, or your App Store on your phone, or you can visit this URL. When you visit that URL, it will prompt you to use the web version or the downloadable version on your device, and then you can pick from there. All right, thank you. It looks like we no other questions. Thank you. And someone did message me about the firmware update. I saw that, and we will get that to you. Thank you. You are very welcome. Thank you for joining, everyone.